Hey guys, welcome back to Custom Recap number 4. I know we haven't done one of these in a while, but just in case you guys haven't been here for a minute, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Nate, or Nate's Minifigs.
Yeah, and we haven't done one of these in, I want to say, like a little over a month, maybe a month and a half. And we do apologize for being away for a little bit and being on a little hiatus, but both of us have been pretty busy with other projects and stuff. Nate, especially, you've got some like personal stuff coming up here pretty soon, which is pretty
Right.
big. So I don't know if you want to give a little rundown of what you've got coming up here pretty soon.
So I'm actually getting married here this weekend. I've been doing a ton with the Nate's Minifigs website, getting a ton of new products made and shipping out orders as they come. So I've been definitely had my hands full as well. I'm sure you have too. So
Yeah, not so much as much as you,
not as
but
much as that. Yeah.
still decently busy
Right.
since I've got work and then doing a little bit of just design work with you, and then just working on
Mm-hmm.
other figures. Since last time I did the Phantom Menace figure project, so it's been a little while since then. That's been almost a month actually, because I
Wow.
posted that on May 4th. But then Bad Batch, of course, and just some other stuff here and there. But yeah, I mean, we've both just been pretty occupied in our own little worlds, so
Mm-hmm.
it's been a little tough to get one of these coordinated, but we have a lot of stuff to actually go over. And so we're actually going to try something out here where we're kind of splitting it up into 2 episodes here. So like 4 and 5 will kind of go hand in hand with just kind of like a catch up from, pretty much like late June to the like end of May, I guess. And so they're going to have a little less figures in them just because they're going to be shorter, and we don't want to go on for almost 2 hours because the past ones have been pretty long. But hopefully this will be a little bit easier to watch, a little easier to edit, and just easier to talk about too, since we're not trying to like bust through stuff. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that'll be easier all around for both of us and then for all of our listeners. So just giving a preface, yeah, there is a lot of figures from the Instagram Lego customized community that we want to go over, but not all of them will be included in this video. So if you guys see a figure in here or don't see a figure in here that you hopefully will pop up in the next one, then just wait, or just leave it down in the comments if you guys really want us to touch on that if we don't have it planned out already. But I guess the first one we want to talk about is probably one of the best sculpts on a figure I've seen in a while. It just looks so
Definitely.
painstaking to do, and it's the Steppenwolf from Zack Snyder's Justice League by Benson Bone.
I was never aware it was Steppenwolf. I always thought it was Steppenwolf.
Nope.
I mean, I've never been really like too familiar with Justice League in general, but especially the Zack Snyder one. But this sculpt is like super incredible. All the details are just insane that it's like sculpted by hand. I know a lot of it is dry sculpted, which is really awesome. As well as this helmet. I was actually talking with them and working with Benson about kind of modeling it. He modeled all of it and then sculpted on top of it after 3D printing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I actually have the original file that they created, and I've been I sculpted over it and digitally sculpted over it, and I'm going to be putting that out on my store eventually. But this it's not going to be near as good as this one, just because of all that hand sculpted detail is just so nice.
So he just made the base of that helmet like in Blender or something, and
Right.
then printed it out and then sculpted everything on top of that.
Right. Yeah, correct. And
Nice. Okay.
everything else I think is just hand sculpted on there with dry sculpting or just, whatever, and then placed on as regular. But the helmet does have a base, which I think is really interesting, like a really interesting use of 3D printing, which is
Yeah.
something I've never thought about doing, but it's really a cool idea.
I was going to say that just it is very innovative, and I was thinking that like right as you were saying it, that I've never really heard of anybody printing out a part to use as like a base and not like sculpting all of the detail in it already. But that is just super smart on Benson's part.
I think maybe part of that could have been like I was in chats with them and they were saying they weren't like super confident with Blender and stuff, so it may have just been because like they don't really know like the ropes too well. But I honestly think it might have been for the best because of the way that the sculpts turn out. But I think in the future we'll see a lot more stuff from them utilizing 3D printing and even like stuff like this with a mixture of 3D printing and hand sculpting.
Well, Benson kind of collaborated with you at one point, right, with the Commandos, because didn't they do the shoulders and the helmet or something?
Yeah, that's right, and also the backpack as well.
Okay,
and then I do have some more backpacks that are very similar for the rest of the team coming too.
For Bad Batch or for
Delta?
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's still just crazy use of that 3D modeling technique there, using that as a base. And I'm just looking at all of the little rivets in the armor. Just every little like scale, I guess you could call it, is dry sculpted. So
Yeah.
he probably just like sculpts, or he just has like a flat sheet of Procreate and lets it cure, and then cuts out each individual one once it's cured. But that still just seems like such a pain in the ass to do.
Yeah, I think if you look at the Instagram photo for this, you can see he made one, like a sheet, and then after that made a mold out of that sheet, and then casted a bunch of Procreate in that Procreate mold, or blue stuff mold.
Like a
Don't
blue
really know
stuff
what the
mold?
mold was made out of, but and then cut it up all to size, so then applied onto the figure, which really blew my mind.
Yeah, that's just crazy. And I feel like every single time we talk about Benson's stuff, we're always just like fanboying over it.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like he's one of our favorite customizers out there.
Absolutely.
Just probably one of the best sculptors that's ever graced the community, because Benson's like the only person that does just crazy stuff like this on their figures. And it's just mind-boggling.
This is like so unnecessarily good.
Yeah, for Steppenwolf. Because I don't know, did you watch Justice League? I know we've talked about it in the past couple episodes. It's been that long since we've really talked.
Right.
But
nope, still haven't. Still never anticipate. I'm sure sometime like 5-10 years in the future, I'll accidentally like find it playing somewhere.
You'll be like, oh, I remember this.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
I don't ever willingly think I'll ever watch it.
I mean, that's pretty fair. I thought it was passable, but
I know it's
unnecessarily
a lot better
long.
Yeah, I know it's a lot better than the first one. I just still don't have any interest in it.
That's fair. Steppenwolf was a little better, I think, in the Zack Snyder cut, which is good that Benson was able to actually find some reason to make the character for that point.
Right, yeah.
I think they might be trying to make like a dark side at one point. I'm not exactly sure what Benson's plan is for that, but I think I remember
that'd be sweet though, yeah.
Saying that potentially in one of our chats we have with them, but I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, still such, an incredible figure, an incredible one to start off this episode with.
Definitely.
I feel like
starting off with a bang.
Yeah, but moving on to one of our other favorite customizers is Brickophilia. This is Polka-Dot Man from James Gunn's Suicide Squad, coming out later this year.
I'm really hoping that Brickophilia does like the entire gang, because this one is just so awesome. I was not expecting to see this, but I mean, that's like kind of the theme with Brickophilia, is you're really not expecting whatever the next custom is going to be from them. So keeping in theme with not having a theme is this one. I really like a lot of the smaller details, and obviously the colors are kind of the highlight of this with all those polka dots. The goggles I think are really cool. There's a little line painted on the left side of each of the holes of the goggles, I guess you'd say, to kind of give the like indentation look, but it's not sculpted, it's painted, but it really does like kind of sell that look, which I have to say that's probably my favorite part of this figure.
Yeah, that lens glare, I guess, kind of gives it like a little bit of personality too. And like, all the characters in the Suicide Squad movie are just completely ridiculous. And especially with a guy like Polka-Dot Man, I don't really know too much about Polka-Dot Man as a character, other than he uses polka dots as like weapons or something.
I don't think
not
you're
exactly
alone.
sure. Really stupid concept in theory, but like hilarious in terms of like just how absurd it is. And this figure was just caught my eye because when we had Dylan on last time, and I can't remember if we talked about this or not, but he's been plugging this idea to me, at least privately, and he wants to do like a Suicide Squad collab or something, because he made King Shark, which I don't know if we'll talk about in this episode, but we will definitely in the next one.
Right.
But he wants to like do a little collab thing that we've done in the past with like the Avengers or whatever, and he's like, oh, you can make Polka-Dot Man, and after seeing this I'm just like, I don't need to, because Brickophilia killed it with this one. Also, I think the boots have like a little bit of shading on it that I'm just now noticing. Like there's a little bit of lighter brown in there.
A little detail I notice is that neck is usually people do not paint necks, kind of avoid that area, but there's actually a lot of detail. There's only a couple lines and some circles, but still that's incredibly small to be painting on there. And I just kind of like picked that up and realized, wow, it's pretty cool that they put that extra detail in there to create like a collar.
Yeah, usually I avoid doing collars, like you were saying, on the neck, just because that's an area that always usually moves on a figure, so it can just rub off super easily. And sometimes I'll paint in black, like on troopers and stuff, but never really that much detail.
Right. Yeah.
So that's cool. Definitely a really good figure.
Yeah, totally agree.
So moving on, we've got a first feature by our friend Andy, or delta.png.
This is the first one from
I
them?
think so, because I think Andy he doesn't really finish figures in a timely fashion.
You know what? That's actually really true.
And these figures are ones he's been working on for like a year or so in concept. He's been talking about them for a while, and these are figures from the band Paramore. And I'm not like super familiar with them. I know Haley Williams is, the front runner, and then I don't know the two dudes in the band, but I just wanted to include it because this would be Andy's first time on here, and he's like one of my favorite customizers, and it pains me that he only makes like one or two figures every couple months.
Yeah, I'm sure every figure that would be put out by Andy would probably end up on this podcast, but there's only ever like 2 a year put out, so
pretty much. I think the last custom figure he posted was the Kiernan Shipka. I made him late last year, so it's been a while since he's posted a figure. But I know he's got he did some other like band figures or musical figures last year, some like indie figures like Men I Trust, and I think he's working on like a custom Phoebe Bridgers as well. So hopefully he'll post that here soon so we can actually talk about it on the next show. But I want to include these just because I think Andy did a great job with the paintwork, especially on all those jumpsuits, because that's incredibly clean.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and the hair sculpts too on the two guys. I don't know their names, but like I like the sculpted hair addition on that beanie on the blue guy, and then on the yellow guy, the continuation of that, like the fin hair where he kind of captured the same texture of it.
Yeah, I really like the simple line work on these. Really pops. It kind of almost looks like an official figure with the style of the line work. But I love that yellow jumpsuit. The black on the yellow lines really like pops and kind of stands out to me. But yeah, I really like these guys.
Yeah, and I think the likenesses on all of them are really good as well. I think Andy did everything on all of their faces except for the eyes, probably, and then maybe not Haley Williams' mouth, but at least on the two other guys, he painted everything, I think.
Yeah, so he did these standout figures and really like them. But next up we can move on to Jared Figs, Omni-Man, and Mark, or I guess Invincible would be the name.
Yeah.
I actually watched the first couple episodes because I was seeing this being posted everywhere, and I was thinking, oh gosh, here comes another boys ripoff, and Netflix has even got their own thing going about like some old Superman guy. I just could not be.
Oh yeah, I saw something like that, but I haven't
it's like
watched
Jupiter or something, but I just could not be bothered, but I do like the concept of this show. I think the animation is really good, and the cast is incredible. Like they got a lot of like standout voice actors in there, and I think these are really good examples of these characters translated into the Lego. Especially, I really love the torso on Omni-Man. I like there's like a light blue highlight that you kind of don't even realize is there.
Yeah.
It's so close to that white that it really gets hidden, but it really makes like it kind of sells the muscles popping out a little bit more. As also, I like the hair on both these. The sculpts are really awesome.
Yeah, and I know Jared is a huge fan of Invincible. Like he's read the comics and stuff, and he made a Mark figure, an Invincible figure, like a couple years ago. So I know when the show got announced, he was really excited for it. And I didn't really start watching it until like the show was like 5 episodes in, like had been posted. So I was like, oh, I'll give it a shot because everyone was talking about it, and I enjoyed it. And I know you're not like huge into the. I know you're on your story talking about how you weren't like a huge fan of like the kind of big team style, superhero shows like that, but I think like this show and The Boys kind of go hand in hand with having that evil kind of Superman type character. And I feel like The Boys in this are different enough to where The Boys has like a social commentary kind of around it, and just very kind of relevant to our current status as a country, and just the way everything operates in society. And then this is kind of more just like a coming of age superhero show with kind of a dark twist. And
it's kind of like
I enjoy it.
Young Superman and Spider-Man and also The Boys, and I don't know. But I mean, I quit watching it after the first couple episodes. I just couldn't take it anymore. I'm just like, okay, I get it. And then I kind of just Googled, like the plot synopsis, just because I was wondering like what it is about. And it does have like a cool like plot, device, which is interesting. But yeah, I did post on my story. I was kind of just talking about how I think they're all kind of the same show with different aesthetics and like a different plot device, so
yeah,
a lot of people are enjoying it, and I'm glad people are liking it, but I don't think it's personally for me. But these figures are great, so
Yeah, and I know we have a lot of other like Invincible figures that have been posted in the community, and I think
Yeah.
we'll be touching on a few of them at least. I don't know if in this episode, but at least in the next one, because several other people have been making really good iterations of these characters, especially Omni Man. I know he's really popular in
Yep.
terms of people making figures of him. But I wanted to include Jared since he's been working on these guys for a while, and I knew he'd appreciate it since he was a big fan of the comics, and I figured I'd do him that little favor of showing that. But there's definitely some other good ones, and also one other thing is the blood splatter on
Right. Yeah.
Mark here, especially.
I don't know how we'd move on from that without talking about this.
Yeah. And that was one of the big things I wanted to talk about because I'm not exactly sure how he did it. If he had like a brush and was like flicking paint on it or something. I know he's real big into those, like the tabletop game style of paints. And I don't know if he's picked up a method or something from doing some research that maybe some of those guys do. But it was just a really cool effect on that. That just looks really natural and doesn't look like he did all of those spots individually. So it definitely looks like he did something cool to those. And not sure what.
It almost looks like that red paint is like transparent in some way.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like it's acrylic. I'm not entirely sure if that's like the truth, but it does like almost kind of like you can see the color underneath rather than it just being like a dried blood. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it might be like, I know Model Masters and Tamaya both have translucent paint. So it might be one of those, not exactly sure, but wanted to talk about that because I think that's probably the most impressive part about the Invincible figure itself is that technique there. But moving on, we've got a Robert Pattinson Batman made by Anon Figs. This is, I think, his second version of this. Didn't he do one like last
year? He did
year?
One quite a while ago. And I'm not sure. I think everything is entirely redone from ground up.
Yeah, I think so. Because I remember the chest on that one being a lot different.
Yeah, I looked between the two and they looked pretty different. I'm sure like a few things maybe are borrowed, or if not, it might just be completely new. But I think this one is a huge improvement over the last one. If you guys head over to his account, you can see the comparison between them. And overall the sculpting on this is just like really, really nice. I like how the chest is really sharp and pointed sculpting, and then on the legs it's just nice paintwork. I think this is using my the Pattinson like 3D printed piece, which they made it look really, really nice on this figure. So
yeah, I think this was the first one that I saw, and this was like right after you came out with it. And AJ had this done, so it's like you probably saw the cowl, sculpted it up in a day because that's how fast AJ works usually. Painted it up and then slapped your cowl on there, and it looks really good. One thing I wanted to note is the sculpt, especially like on the torso, seems kind of like low profile, so it's not sticking out as much. Because I think some of his previous versions. Yeah, some of the previous versions and just other figures that I've seen just from other people, they have like, this thick chest sculpt, and it looks really out of proportion where he's, not supposed to be that armored up top. It's just supposed to be kind of subtle, I guess. And so I love how thin that armor sculpt is. And then the shoulders also really pleasing to look at.
Yeah, I was going to talk about the shoulders. Those 3 lines on them came out really, really crisp. So look nice. And I think overall, this might be like my favorite and best Pattinson minifig out there. I'm still waiting to see the movie. I'm probably gonna make like a 3D printed armor set for people to do, but I doubt I'll even paint one up myself unless I'm really inclined to buy the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. I think this is beautiful. I love the aesthetics of the movie and the character design. So it's really, really nice translation into this minifig. I think they knocked it out of the park. But next up, we have another Suicide Squad figure by Joe Mama Figs.
Great name.
Great name again. Yeah, I think we mentioned
I think we said that last time.
Yeah. But Joe Mama Figs put out this Peacemaker. I know John Cena is playing this character.
Yeah.
So really interesting casting choice on that. But I have no idea what this character is. Just like Polka-Dot Man, I'm sure really not a lot of people besides like super mega nerds are fully aware of everyone that's in this cast because it's so stacked full of really obscure people. I think that's kind of the point. But love the cowl on this. I think that's like a flash cowl modified. Nice chrome paintwork. Overall this is nice. Really nice photo as well.
Yeah, I think Peacemaker might be like a Captain America type character where they're all about like being a patriot or whatever, but he's also just kind of like an asshole who just kills people too. So it's like he's supposed to be like righteous, but like an idiot about it, is what I'm guessing. I'm not exactly sure.
And his
But
name is John Cena.
yeah. Yeah, it just kind of comes with the name Peacemaker, so you kind of like, okay, he's probably some sort of character like that, but just kind of a dick.
Yeah.
But yeah, Joe Mama's got a lot of great figures, and he uses the custom recap hashtag a lot, and he's got a lot of great figures out there that I wanted to include, but I wanted to pick out this one especially just because I really like the blood splatter on this one as well. Just
Yeah,
because
it's
it's
really
also
minimal.
yeah, it's really minimal on the pants, but it looks like natural, like the way Jared did it. And so, not exactly sure how Joe Mama did it, but it's one thing I really wanted to note on. But I do want to stress: go to Joe Mama's page; they've got a lot of great stuff on there that I wanted to include, but we're trying to limit it down to kind of one figure per person if we can. This just looks really good, really clean, and just like a lot of Joe Mama stuff. He's been kind of one of those customizers out there that's just been kind of getting better very quickly. And so I was very happy to include some of their stuff here.
The photo on this one though, too, the lighting, there's a kind of a red highlight coming from the left, blue highlight coming from the right. Really nice photography skills on this photo, as well as the backdrop blends in nicely. So knocked it out of the park with the photo. I think that's almost what sells this figure even more, is the photo is just super nice.
Good pictures make your figures look so much better.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, I guess we can move on to the next batch of figures.
There you go. Yep. You said it.
I said it. I had to do it. But this is the Bad Batch by 97 Lego Maniac, otherwise known as Yale to all of us. And I want to include these guys just because of how relevant Bad Batch has been so far, since it's, I guess when this episode comes out, it'll be past episode 6, I think. And Yale's been kind of, I guess, like the inside man almost, because he had a internship with Hasbro, and he worked on like some Bad Batch toys before, like when it was confidential and stuff. So he kind of like had the knowledge of like, okay, what are all of these characters going to look like? And I think he's been working on these like for the past couple months with that kind of knowledge. And like, of course, you can see the Bad Batch in Clone Wars, so you kind of have an idea of what they're going to look like. But he's always been one that's been really wanting to do this group of figures. So I was glad he was able to get all these guys done pretty much in time for the beginning of the show. And he's the only one that I've seen that has a complete batch of figures.
The whole set, yeah.
Yeah.
I think highlights for me in this group, definitely the sizing on Wrecker.
Yeah.
As well as Hunter's hairpiece. I feel like it's a Cole from an Ninjago hairpiece sculpted on top of. He also did 3D print that Echo helmet. That's designed by Yale and 3D printed by him. Came out really great.
I think he also did Crosshair Sniper, and then also all of their backpacks as well. And then
okay.
Echo's little earpiece too.
That's
so I
awesome.
think he did quite a bit. I know he collaborated with Benson a little bit on those because Benson was able to print those up for him. So that's cool to see. And it's cool to see Yale designing his own stuff like that too. I mean, he's got the knowledge of toy design under his belt, so it makes sense. And then I think he used AV helmets on all these guys too, other than Echo, of course.
Right.
So it's cool to see. But
all of them have really nice paint jobs. I think that for some reason the Hunter helmet's really crisp.
Yeah.
And especially in that mouth area. Looks really nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like that, and I like the damage around the white area of the helmet, like the white half.
Right.
It just looks very nice, very kind of menacing too. But also, go ahead.
I was gonna say the whole group of these like together, they really complement each other. They all share the same like line work aesthetic. So I really like that about him too.
Yeah, and going back to Wrecker too, he's one that I haven't really thought too much about making so far, because I've done Echo, and then I'm working on Crosshair and Hunter right now, and then I'm kind of saving Wrecker for last just because I don't really know how exactly I'm going to handle the proportions on him to make sure he's beefy but doesn't look like too weird and out of scale. So that's going to be a challenge. But Yale did it pretty nicely here, so I have to ask him to see how he did it.
Probably the best way you could capture his sizing in a minifig form. If people who are keeping up with like my stuff I'm making behind the scenes have seen like the bigger fig, the mid fig is what I'm calling it. It's kind of like the game model of like Mr. Incredible from that Lego Incredibles game. But I'm thinking, after seeing this, I'm thinking I might even do a in between mid fig and minifig scale one, using kind of similar proportions to what's done here on that record. Just to a lot of people have been asking for something like that, and I think this is Yale just knocked it out of the park with this one. So might even just
Well,
borrow the sizing on that and put that out for people because there's been a lot of requests for that. But
I was going to say another character you could actually use that for other than Wrecker would be George from
yeah,
Noble
that's very
Team.
true. Yeah.
Because I was thinking about that. I was like, you've done all of the armor for everybody else, and you haven't done a George armor set, have you yet?
Not yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you do kind of like an in-between mid-fig and normal fig size, then you could use that body for George, since, he's what, a Spartan? Is he Spartan 2, the bigger ones?
Yeah, he is. He's one of the older ones. So
Yeah, so he's going to be bigger, and he would look, looking at this Bad Batch, it seems like if all of those guys were just normal Spartan heights using all of your armor, and then Wrecker was George in that case, I feel like that size would work
fit perfectly.
perfect.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that, that'd be something that would definitely, it'll
Yeah,
help people complete their noble teams.
I think I will eventually. So I guess people can look forward to that. But next we have some Tenet figures that are like possibly some of the most like detailed and accurate capturing like the likeness of an actor and on-screen appearance. Neil and the narrator, it's so weird to me that he never got a name, but I guess that it really is just the narrator. These figures, I'm pretty sure Speedy Bricks did like Spider-Man and Mary Jane or something from the game a while ago, and I don't know if we touch on those on here, but the paintwork on those figures on like the clothes and stuff was just insane. Almost kind of looked like real fabric just because of how much detail is packed into that. And it's the same here. There's like highlights and like that plaid. Everything about this is just so crazy.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Neil's tie and his jacket and just that cross-hatching plaid pattern. Just looks like a nightmare to do.
Yeah.
And I really like the little wrinkles and the creases on their pants too. They're both very consistent. I love the addition of he's got like the dark shadow and then he's also got like the little highlight next to it, which is just crazy clean. And
I think you go ahead.
I was gonna say the photo is insane because I can't remember when Speedy started using like a different camera, but there's one point where like his quality just snapped and just went up so much. It might have been when he did the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood figures. And that might have been the first one that's just the first one I'm remembering, but I know for sure it was on that Peter Parker and Mary Jane or whoever it was from the Spider-Man game that he did. But yeah, that's just crazy. And I wanted to make my photos look that good because that's just so crisp.
Yeah, I wanted to quickly talk about before we move on with these guys. Just a lot of times I'll see people try to do highly detailed, like anything on figures, and it almost turns me off in a way when I look at them from like the aesthetic of having a highly detailed figure. I'm more of like a kind of simplest or more simpler details on figure kind of makes more sense with the Lego aesthetic, but for some reason. The more detail that are packed into Speedy Bricks' figures, the better, because they end up being so nice to look at. Like I could endlessly look at these guys and not get bored. Just the amount of like different shading, like you mentioned, on the legs and arms and of the jackets and stuff, as well as like that plaid for me is just so insane. Everything about these, and then also we didn't even talk about the likenesses, but they literally are like exact copies of the on-screen actors.
I would agree.
Especially with those hair pieces, both of them are really nice. So
yeah, they're both probably like complete, custom sculpts. I don't know if they used anything as a base, but they fit in with the Lego style very nicely. Especially, I think the narrators fits in super nicely with Lego style. But one thing I wanted to note on that I actually just got tricked out on was the little shadow underneath the lapels on Neil's jacket. Like I thought that was like another layer of whatever he used for that jacket, either like a paper or whatever. But I just saw that and I was like, oh god, that's such a nice little detail that he threw in there. That's something I got to start incorporating into my figures because that's just such a great style to include.
Every time I make a figure, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna definitely this is the one I'm gonna use like some of these details that these people are using. But I always forget and I always definitely regret leaving them out. But I'm gonna keep trying my best to remember to do stuff like this because it's really, really nice. But next up we have a Falcon from Casimus Lego. I think that's how that's said.
Yeah.
Casimus Lego.
Yeah. Casmus has been one of my favorites to watch recently. I believe his name is Zach. And he was teasing these figures last time. I think we might have briefly touched on something that he was working on, but I wanted to show this Falcon just because the wings on this are just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I know these wings, I think, are the mini mates wings, so they're not like complete sculpts, but I just love the paintwork on those.
Yeah, they
Because
fit
he's got
perfectly.
those nice highlights on all of the little separate wing bits, or the quote unquote feathers of the wings. Just seeing the darker grays and the lighter grays, dark reds, and I guess like kind of like the white almost is just really pleasing to look at.
Yeah. I think that the use of that is really nice. Also, the torso on this is really cool. I think there's some sculpting in there on that, especially with those like straps. Tops of the arms are really cool, continuing that sculpting. I kind of want to look a little bit closer, but I'm not really sure if that's sculpted. I think it looks not, now that I'm looking at it, maybe just painted, but I don't know, something about those small, tiny gray lines in the middle of that red highlight going across from shoulder to shoulder kind of just sells that. I'm not really sure if this is sculpted or not, but
I think the shoulders are just painted. And I'm trying to figure out the layers on here because I'm looking at like the center of the torso where that gray point comes down to the abs. And like it looks like it might be like a layer or something that's kind of like flapping up, or it's just a black outline on it. I honestly can't tell because that line is so thin. So I think like the only really sculpted bits on there might be like the belt, the gray straps, and of course like the straps going to the backpack, and then that triangle in the very center. A red triangle. So I'm not exactly sure what is sculpted on that, but just the fact that it's boggling both of us is kind of
confusing me.
Yeah. It's a testament to how like clean and seamless that figure is.
Yeah. Perfect rendition of the Falcon.
Yeah. I know they did they did Bucky and Zemo as well, and maybe US Agent, I can't remember, but they did a couple figures from this, and I really want them to do a Sam Wilson Captain America in this style because I think it would just look incredible.
Yeah, I think they'd knock it out of the park.
Yeah. We can move on to the next one. One of our favorites, Tossie Figs, made an Indiana Jones. And this might be one of the oldest figures in this episode because this was posted like late April, I think. But we wanted to touch on it because I'm a big Indy fan. Are you a big fan of Indiana Jones?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what initially got me into it was that first run of Indiana Jones sets when I was a lot younger.
Oh, yeah, me too. In the game.
It definitely hooked me on the aesthetics, the idea, and the movies that I would end up watching. But those first run of sets were like so magical for me as a kid. So anytime I see anything Indiana Jones, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So, but this figure's so awesome. I think it's perfect. There's not one thing that, and it's beyond perfect because there's not one thing I would change, but there's so many things I'm so like, appreciate on this figure.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts is probably the belt. Like, the belt with the holster on it. You can see the one end of it is actually like flopping out. So it's not like perfectly straight. So that's just something really cool to see. But like the jacket on that is insane. Probably like the best Indiana Jones I've ever seen in the community.
I would say like probably objectively this one's the best. I love everything on this. The light, the shading on the jacket, the base color that is chosen for the jacket is really nice. It's almost like closer to a black, which looks nice because it has that lighter highlight to kind of like indicate that this is like a lighter thing, like a lighter color, but it's kind of more frayed or damaged at the edges of the jacket. So you can see that kind of popping out there, as well as I love the 3D sculpted collar. And probably the best part about this figure for me is the face, the likeness on that. The lips are just perfect. And kind of that bottom lip, I don't know what it is about that, but like the smirk and everything, it's just so perfect to me. So I think this is probably the best ever custom Indiana Jones that I've ever seen. So
yeah, I think one thing Tossie does really well with capturing likenesses is they use like mouth features, and that's what really sells a figure because they'll do like the wrinkles, like I guess like the bottom lip, I guess, is something you don't see Lego ever do, and that's why some of their likenesses are usually off. But that, like the wrinkles above the mouth and like at the corners and just mouth shape is just like, when I look at somebody, I don't really ever think like, oh, they have a weird looking mouth, unless it's like Homelander or something from The Boys. But like, I don't know, man. It's kind of like a science or just like a natural talent that somebody has to have to be able to get it
pull out all
that
those
great.
ideas.
I thought the Lego Han Solo head was like perfect for Harrison Ford, but like
apparently not.
This looks even better.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. But
Only
next
thing
up,
this figure could use is a whip.
yep, yeah, definitely agree.
Only
But
thing.
next up, we have a Moon Knight by Potato Trooper. Really like a lot of the blood detail on this. I know like Oscar Isaac is officially cast as Moon Knight.
Yeah.
That's coming soon. So I think we're probably going to be seeing a lot more Moon Knights. I haven't seen a whole lot before this, but I think this one's awesome.
Yeah, this is one of the ones I found on the custom recap hashtag, so I wanted to throw it in here
Oh,
as
that's
are
great.
some of the
Yeah.
other ones on here. So I wanted to include this in here just because one of the photo is really crisp, and Potato Trooper has all of their photos are just really nice looking. But
Hmm.
this is I haven't really seen a lot of Moon Knight figures, and I don't really know too much about Moon Knight, but I think that he has a really cool looking costume. And I like this one because it had, not bumpy white paint, which is always something to look forward to, and
Absolutely.
all the blood splattering on it as well. Only little critique would maybe just like sharpen up the sculpt on like the hood that's kind of pointing down,
Hmm.
but I think they sculpted the cape too, and that looks really nice. Like you can see some tears in it as well on the sides.
Right.
But other than that, I think this figure is very good.
I definitely agree. My favorite part about this has got to be on that arm. You can see like this tiny, tiny little strap, and it's
Yeah,
got this painted silver highlight on there. I think that's such a small thing that can be missed because of all the blood splatter. But really cool detail in there. So
yeah. So definitely a cool one. I wanted to include some stuff from the hashtag. Some of the other ones that will be showing up throughout this episode, and then also in the next one will be from there as well. So we do try to pick out some of our favorites from there. But moving on to the next one, this is Kaneda from Akira.
hmm
When me and Nate were talking about this before, I thought his name was Canada at first, and I thought that was kind of dumb. But I've never seen Akira. It's been one of the movies that I've been wanting to watch for a while, just because I guess in the movie this guy uses some sort of like heavy laser cannon or something, and I have a
hmm
Brick Arms prototype of that weapon from like
okay.
2011 or something like that. It's like super rare because they never mass produced it. It was always a prototype.
Mm.
Apparently, like the mold broke for it, and Will Chapman, owner of Brick Arms, just never revisited it. So it's like a really rare and valuable piece that I have. And I'm always just like, man, I wish I had seen this movie so I could make a figure to display this thing with. But after seeing this, it's like, wow, this thing is just perfect looking.
hmm Yeah, the jumpsuit on this. I think that line work is done in a gloss, which is really cool, like a gloss black. And I think it really makes the details pop in a cartoony way, if that makes sense. And then
Mhm.
on that back, that pill, there are the highlights and all the tiny little words you can actually read, which is really impressive. I think we talked about someone did what about Bob figure? I'm kind of
Yeah, I
blanking
think it
on
was
who.
fishy.
Fishy, okay, yeah, and the wording on that, like the calligraphy stuff on that was done so well. And here's another example of just the tiniest like words done on this. Ends up being a really cool highlight. If I had
Yeah,
to say, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I've had to do little line work like that before on my sig fig. I painted a Dark Side of the Moon, and so
Hmm.
it actually says like Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, and just fitting all that into such a small circle, and painting it in a circle is very challenging. So
Yeah, it's
I
even hard
admire
to.
what he did here because this guy did it in a circle as well and didn't really have a baseline for it. So
Mhm.
that's always good to see.
Yeah, sometimes it's even just hard to plan out where the placement of the words need to go, so you can fit it all in. But one thing I'd have to say about this is just the face. I think face could use a little bit of like more character, but the torso on this and legs especially too, just so perfect, just so perfect.
Yeah. And this guy, NDL Workshop, I don't think we mentioned their name yet, but
Yeah.
they do a lot of really good like historical leader figures. So they make
Hmm.
like these random military leaders and just historical figures and stuff. Which like I don't really know anything about it, but I love following this guy just because they have such clean line work and it's got that like glossy style to it that just looks really pleasing and kind of like animated and like a Lego, honestly.
Totally.
So it's really fun to just see that. And gloss paint is a pain in the ass to work with sometimes, especially doing complicated line work like this.
Hmm.
Because it's like you can't like make a little mistake and go back and clean it up. It's like it will tear off all of the paint that you that you paint on. So all of this has to be kind of done in one stroke from what it seems like. And this is just like a prime example of someone who kind of knows what they're doing in terms of line work. So
Right.
really thought that would be a good one to include. moving on to Jesse Pinkman by Jams Figs. We included Jams Figs, I think, the last time, and maybe the time before. And this figure just looks really nice just because it's got a great face on it, has
Yeah,
loads of character to it. It's Jesse
totally.
Pinkman after he gets the shit beat out of him. But
Yeah, I think I love the hospital gown thing on this too.
mhm.
It's really nice. If I think that's what that is. Um, I think this marks the 10 millionth Breaking Bad custom minifigure. Um,
Probably.
I think if there's any other Breaking Bad figs made, I might lose my mind. But they all look really good, especially this one. I think, yeah, like you said, the likeness on this, the hair sculpt is really nice as well.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a very clean looking hair sculpt.
Yeah,
And James has been killing it with
yeah,
hair
you
sculpts.
sometimes you'll be able to see like tiny little perforations in the hair, like little miniature sculpts, which we talked about. If you can use that the right way, would be like a nice style. But other times it ends up just making it look a little messy. But this one is so smooth, came out really nice. I really like this
One
take on
thing,
this figure.
yeah, one thing I really like about the beard is that it looks kind of like a Lego head, like a Lego
Right.
print. Because when I do like beards and stubble, usually I'll do like a dry brush or like a wash or something to kind of like darken it around there.
Mm-hmm.
But I really love how James just did a little bit of just like hair whisking or whatever down at the jawline and everything. And it
Right.
just looks like that Lego style, which I really, really love.
Yeah, I totally
Definitely
agree.
a great figure, and James has got a lot of other Breaking Bad figures that I'd love to talk about in a future episode. But if we
Really,
don't,
really random detail I want to point out before we move on. The neck is so symmetrical, semicircle. I don't really know how that's possible, but it's so
oh yeah,
round. It's like really nice, actually. Just how round that is.
yeah. I love how
Almost
I think that might be a watch piece that he used for like how when you go to a hospital or whatever they put like a bracelet
right.
around you, and I love how that might be like a watch or something. I'm not exactly sure what that is, like the piece itself, but I love just that usage of that
Hmm.
translates over very nicely. But moving on, we've got this really nice Joker from Salacious
Beautiful
Customs.
Joker.
Yeah, from Joker, the movie.
Right.
And want to include this just because the hair sculpt on this is just immaculate.
I think not only the hair sculpt, but this entire figure is really, really, really good.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of the highlights, like we were talking about with Speedy Bricks, kind of carried on those type of techniques onto this figure. That face got some really cool paintwork on that. Where the lips are, you can see like a tiny little highlight of a pink to show the lips, as well as like all those paintwork in there. But yeah, that hair sculpt, like you were saying, so well done.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure that might be a completely sculpted hairpiece, nothing used as a base, which is just incredible that they got all of that, the flowing hair and kind of it's curly,
Hmm.
and it just looks crazy.
So
And I want to
nice.
do something like that for like an Anakin hairpiece,
Hmm.
and that just looks absolutely phenomenal. One of the best, probably the best Joker that I've seen.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
Yeah, from the Joaquin Phoenix movie. So that's really awesome. I also love the little joke book as a accessory.
Right.
Might be made out of actual paper. Not exactly sure.
It looks like it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely a good figure for a movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Not a huge fan of the movie, but like,
Really?
no, not really. I thought it. I don't know. I guess I saw it like a couple weeks after it came out, so
Hmm.
I feel like I kind of got it overhyped for me. So I
Okay.
thought it was going to be like
I think this
amazing.
is probably the most overhyped movie, but I think it really was out of anything made DC. Probably definitely would have to be the
Okay, yeah,
best.
I'll give it that. It's one of the better DC movies for sure.
I
And
think in terms of even just superhero movies, it's probably in terms of films, probably the one of the better films. Logan would obviously be up there. This one
yeah,
is really great. Yeah, I think overall loved the movie. Wasn't like incredible, but I think performance wise was really great.
heard that they just announced the second one. They're doing a sequel to it.
Okay.
I'm interested to see how that's going to go. If they're gonna just still going to stick with Joker being the only like character in it, or if they're
Yeah,
going to bring any other
literally
like
the only
DC
character.
villains. They
Yeah, that'd be
definitely
interesting.
shouldn't bring Batman into it. I don't think,
Hmm.
since they're kind of doing their own thing with. I guess this DC movies are just in flames right now. I feel like.
I think they always have been from the beginning.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you got the Nolan trilogy, which is
Those
Like,
ones are masterpieces. Like, they have their flaws, but I think I really, really enjoy. I don't think I could ever be bored of a rewatch of that trilogy.
I haven't seen it in several years, but I've been meaning to go back and watch it because I've always wanted to make like Two-Face and the Christian Bale Batman, and then like a Joker or something from it at some point. Just because I don't really do DC stuff, and that'd be like the only stuff I'd really be interested in doing.
Yeah,
So would be cool to revisit those here sometime soon. But
definitely.
yeah.
But yeah, last figure for today. This is by Zulu Customs, and this is a Django Fett.
Yeah, this is using pretty much all of your parts, isn't it?
I think, yeah, for the most part. But there is, just some paint work they have done underneath on the legs and stuff. But I think the main reason I want to talk about this one is just the photo is so nice. The lighting, depth of field, perfect. The props used, even so nice. Posing.
Yeah, I was gonna say the posing is really cool.
Everything comes together to make a really, really nice photo. Figure obviously really, really good as well, but the photo for me really is what makes this post and figure special.
One thing I really like is how like the arm that's like bent upward, like his right arm.
Yep.
How the end of that pistol kind of blocks where the shoulder would be, so you don't really notice that the hand is like, or the arm is like, would be like pegging into like his ass almost.
Totally, yeah.
And so that kind of hides it, and it just works so well. And how the neck is bent and looking down a little bit. I know this is probably based off of some art. It looks very familiar, at least the posing.
Something, yeah.
And I don't know, that just looks really cool. And I was glad you wanted to include this one just because that posing is just great on this.
Totally. But yeah, I think that wraps up all of the figures for this episode. Like you said in the beginning, we're keeping this a little bit shorter, still around like 50 minutes at this point. But I think having a little bit of a shorter runtime and a list of figures to go through will help to have more frequent uploads, hopefully, as well as, like you said, easier on our end and on the viewers and to kind of digest. But yeah, I think all the figures we talked about, really, really good group this time. And like we said earlier, in next episode, we'll be continuing kind of the same group, but talking a little bit more of the figures we didn't cover this time, but from the same time of posting.
Yeah, we're trying to catch up on the kind of month that we lost, and there's several customizers that we featured in this episode that made more than one really good figure, so we kind of wanted to divvy it up so we're just not talking about the same person over and over again. And then we'll be including ones that would be coming out like now per se, so we can just have a little bit of new content in there while still catching up on the older stuff. But hopefully that one will be out pretty soon. I know, like we were saying, Nate's got a busy couple weeks coming up. So hopefully we'll be able to get that out here relatively soon, in the matter of a couple weeks, once we both have some time. But I know, Nate, you've been working on a lot of stuff, and I've been working on a decent amount of stuff too, so we can kind of go over what we've both been working on, if you'd want.
Yeah, I was talking a little bit earlier about the midfig stuff. I've actually started like a second account recently, and that's just to kind of like as a backup account, and also just as
kind of casual.
Yeah, a work in progress, behind the scenes type thing. I throw a lot of stuff up there that is like ready for opinions to come at. I'll ask a lot of times people's takes on things. So if you have a certain something you want to say or opinion on something that is being worked on, you can definitely let your thoughts be heard over there. It's already got like around 700 followers, which is nice because I really haven't even said anything about it, which is kind of been a cool thing. But yeah, I feel like it's a lot easier to communicate, like talking to people over on that account as opposed to the Nate's Minifigs account, because it's more of like a business account almost.
Right.
And a lot of customer service stuff gets drowned out, that drowns out everything else. But yeah, I won't really go over too much about what I've been working on, because you can just go ahead over to there and see that. The account name is natesminifigs. So we'll link that down below. So if you're interested in what I've got working on, which is quite a lot of stuff, quite a lot of Marvel stuff coming here pretty soon, you can go over there and check that out. But a lot of good feedback from people. So I'm assuming that it's people are liking it. A lot of DC stuff as well, which I'm not personally interested in, but I know a lot of people are requesting and asking me about. So
you've definitely got your plate full of projects from what it seems. You're not gonna run dry out of ideas, it seems like.
Hmm.
But it's always good to like I love that you have that work in progress account because like you were saying, it allows people to actually give you feedback. So that's what you can really focus on, which is one thing
Hmm.
not a lot of like custom companies really do, is they don't really like ask like, okay, what would you like changed on this? They just post a product and they're just like, go buy it, please.
Yeah.
So it's really nice that you're out there like one of the probably the biggest like resin printed business out there in the Lego community, and you're still asking like, hey, is this good? Is this need any changing? So people can actually be honest with you, so you know that you're producing like the best possible stuff.
Hmm. Yeah, a lot of the time I'm not like 1,000% familiar with source material or even what people want to be made. So I think like hearing people's opinions is almost like the key to my success. And in a way, I think being able to like let people tell me what they want and how they want it has been really really nice to have as a resource when making new things and putting them out. So yeah, I totally agree. I really enjoy as well. The interaction is really satisfying to have people say, "Oh, this sucks," or "This is really great." So yeah, I don't think I'll ever change that moving forward. So
Yeah, just glad people are being honest about stuff, so
definitely.
they're not just telling you, oh yeah, it's okay, and then nobody buys it because it's shit or something like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, if you guys missed it, Nate and I actually collaborated on some stuff. I designed up some lightsaber hilts, and I've got some more in the works. So if you guys want to go check those out, they're kind of all modeled after ones that I've sculpted and even done tutorials on. So now it's like if you don't really want to make it yourself, you just go and literally buy it because it's probably easier for some people than others. If you're perfectly capable, then you don't really have to. But figured we'd get those out there just because they're pretty fun to design, pretty easy.
Hmm.
And I've got a lot more in the works. And once we get the second wave done, I was hoping to get a video out of like showcasing. I guess probably be around 10 of them that I'd have done at that point. So that'll be something cool to look forward to once we get those out. And then other than that, just kind of been working on the Bad Batch, getting those guys done. I'll probably have a video out of just like an update on where I'm at with those. Since to be honest, it's been a little bit since I've uploaded on the channel. It's just kind of lacked motivation in some regards and just don't really have anything to show also. So they're not going to make filler stuff if I don't really want to. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've been doing. Um, yeah, Nate, you have anything else to add?
I think that's it. I think this is a really good runtime for this episode and
Yeah.
a lot more digestible for people. But yeah, we can go ahead and end it if you're good. I've got everything I need to set out there. So
All right, yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching. Again, let us know down in the comments if you guys would like to see any specific customizers showcased in here. And I don't know if we'll be returning to doing some like adding guests or anything like that because we had Dylan on last time, and Dylan's a joy to talk to, but also like we kind of had trouble balancing out who was going to talk and
yeah, a little
kind
hard
of
to communicate.
yeah, and ran out of kind of like, okay, well, how much can you actually say about a figure? If like me and
Yeah.
Nate talk, what's Dylan going to say or something like that? So it's a little hard, but we're thinking about still doing the kind of spotlights where it's kind of more like an interview style. So that would be able to be uploaded to like Spotify or Apple or something like that to where you can just listen to it. No really visuals to go along with it, but you're actually still learning stuff from specific customizers. So
Hmm.
if you guys have any ideas of who you'd like to see for that, let us know down in the comments. If you guys have any questions or anything, leave those down there as well. And other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys later.